Let's slow this down because what just happened is not just another event in the Middle East. The United States and Israel have conducted military strikes against Iranian targets. This is no longer a proxy chess kind of thing. This is state-to-state confrontation. What I want to talk through today is not the emotional reaction, it's the structure, because it's a gamble for President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Iranian regime, for Congress, and frankly, the future architecture of the Middle East. And we're going to walk through this carefully. First part, the American mood. Before we talk about missiles, we talk about voters. Gallup conducted a study from February 2nd to 16th of this year. For the first time since Gallup began tracking this question in 2001, 41% of Americans say they sympathize more with the Palestinians. 36% say they sympathize more with Israel. And for that, I'll include a citation below. That matters. Among independents, 41% sympathize more with Palestinians, 30% with Israelis. Israelis no longer ahead in the American opinion and population. Support for the establishment of a Palestinian state stands at 57%. Count me as one of them. Israel favorability rating is 46%, again, cited in the study. That doesn't mean Americans oppose Israel. It doesn't mean Americans support Iran. It does mean the American public is not reflexively interventionalist. This is not 2003. This is not post 9/11 unity. This public is cautious. This public is divided, war fatigued. Any president taking direct military action in the region is doing so in that environment. And that's the first layer of Trump's gamble. Let me pause here for a second. If this is the kind of conversation valuable to you, the slow thinking, the data first, the constitutional framing, that's exactly what I do every week. 3 live streams a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, typically 8 a.m., where we don't yell, we think. And my newsletter is where I go even deeper. No algorithm, no clickbait pressure, no tribal performance, just structured analysis, politics, geopolitics, economic shifts, and what they typically mean for the future. If you want to be a part of the community, the people who don't outsource their thinking, go to chakkalo.com, chakkalo.com. Subscribe to the email list. That's where this really lives. In the end of the day, I'm a working guy. I do this part-time, and I just like to stay informed in a civil and nuanced way. Join the community. Look forward to seeing you on the other side. Now, Trump's calculation. Let's be sober. If this works, strategically and politically, it reshapes his presidency. If Iran's military infrastructure is meaningfully degraded, and from what we could tell right now as the date of this recording, it is. If regional normalization begins between Israel and key Arab states, if deterrence strengthens, he becomes the president who demonstrated hard power, and that is high reward. Let me be clear. The world without the Ayatollah is a better world. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for executing a unbelievably effective plan. The world today is much better off, but there's a long road ahead. So far, I like where this war is going. We're one less terrorist in the world, at least, and a decapitated state sponsor of terror, which is the number one. So I'm in favor of that declining state and the declining sponsors. But a case deserves to be brought to the American people. And if the American people will be engaging in something this expensive and this resource-driven, the very least our representatives should do is their job. So not only is this a call out to the executive, but to the legislative. Approval ratings remain politically fragile. Midterm positioning is uncertain. Direct military engagement without explicit new congressional authorization invites constitutional scrutiny. And that's where I'm going next. Congress and their abdication, structural, not really partisan, of whatever Article 1 powers they have. The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. War Power Resolutions Act of 1973 requires notification within 48 hours. The Gang of Eight, according to my sources and reading of it, was actually informed by Secretary Rubio before these options commenced over the weekend. U.S. forces into hostilities limit engagement to 60 days without congressional authorization. That is established law. What has Congress done? Over multiple administrations, not just this one, Congress has largely avoided the decisive legislative clarity. And this is not just limited to war powers. Of authority is largely delegated to the unilateral whim of the President of the United States. Strategic trade alignment, same thing. Direct military engagements, we're watching it. The new AUMF is basically limitless. I suggest you go and read it for yourself. Instead, the presidents operate under broad authorizations or executive interpretations, the unitary executive. Congress reacts for after the fact. It doesn't lead. If you believe the executive is overreaching, you must legislate. Recently on my channel, I've condemned Congress's inability to act, especially in a logical, bipartisan fashion, too much. And dare I say, Congress, do your job. If you believe tariffs are excessive, legislate. If you believe military engagement requires constraint, legislate. Affirm it, reject it, debate it, vote on it. But silence is not oversight. That is not anti-Trump. That is pro-constitutional balance. And that abdication is part of the structural gamble. Because when Congress vacates, the presidency expands. We are subject to 3 co-equal branches of government, or so it may seem. And the way it happened over the past week with IEEPA tariffs being ruled unconstitutional while the Supreme Court's doing its job, Congress, it's time to do yours. Netanyahu's position. Prime Minister Netanyahu has faced sustained domestic political pressure since October 7th, 2023. His coalition is experiencing huge instability. Security credibility has been challenged internally, for my opinion, and good reason. If current military action significantly weakens Iran's regional posture, takes down their radical regime, politically, it strengthens him. If escalation destabilizes Israel further, it weakens him. This is not ideological, it's political reality of the Netanyahu end as well. Iran's calculation. Factually, Iran has engaged in prolonged nuclear negotiations with the Western powers for over 2 decades at this point. The U.S. repeatedly accused Iran of negotiating in bad faith, with good evidentiary points on their side. Iran supports proxy groups designated as terrorist organizations internationally, more specifically Hezbollah and Hamas by the United States. Now, Iran faces direct state-on-state confrontation. Their gamble. That escalation fractures human public tolerance. That global energy pressure restrains the Western escalation. That regime cohesion strengthens under external threat. History shows authoritarian regimes can harden under pressure. Collapse is not automatic, but there you have it on the Iranian front. On the moral front, international humanitarian law distinguishes between the intentional targeting of civilians, a prohibited action, or attacks on legitimate military objectives, where collateral damage may occur, regulated, but not automatically unlawful. The distinction matters. The deeper moral debate is preemption. If a regime is approaching a nuclear capability and negotiations are stalled, is preemptive force justified? Reasonable people disagree, but inaction is not neutral either. That is difficult in the space that we're in. Iran remained unaddressed, unattacked. What is the trajectory that we are on? More of a status quo or more of an unbound Iran? It's not like the JCPOA actually restrained them to begin with. Now, let me be clear on this too. I don't know if it's intentional or not based on the capabilities of the Iranian counterstrikes, but by God, they hit a Jerusalem synagogue last night, and there are also reports that a school was attacked down the block from where an IRGC base is in Iran, both of which should be looked into. But from most reporting, the United States and Israel are not going for civilian targets in the way that the terrorist Iranian regime is. This is not only about Tehran. Moscow's watching, Beijing is watching, the Gulf states are watching. If American deterrence appears credible, global calculations shift. If American action appears overextended or chaotic, adversaries recalibrate. This is a message, whether intended or not, from Venezuela to now Iran. The generational risk. Younger Americans lean more towards Palestinian sympathy, and that's factually based. Israelis are no longer ahead in the American opinion. If this intervention spirals into prolonged instability, that generational skepticism toward intervention hardens. If it produces measurable regional stabilization, perceptions shift. That's not propaganda, simple psychology. Best case scenario, Iran's military capability meaningfully degrades. I think we're on that route. Regional normalization accelerates, hopeful for it. State sponsorship of proxy terror weakens. Economic integration expands. Energy markets stabilize. The Middle East looks very different 5 years from now, in a good way. Worst case scenario, regional escalation, proxy activation, energy shock, domestic political backlash, Congress remains inert, ineffective, frankly, the way they've been, and instability deepens. My final thesis and conclusion is this is a gamble. This is not reckless, and this is not guaranteed by definition. It's a wager. Trump is wagering political capital and, frankly, his legacy. Netanyahu is wagering political survival and not going behind bars, if I'm thinking about it in that way. Iran is wagering regime endurance. Congress has wagered institutional relevance by choosing whether to act. The American public is divided. The Gallup data makes that clear in the Israel-Palestine matter. Success reshapes history. Failure reshapes politics. Pretending this is simple is unserious. History rarely rewards reckless gamblers, but occasionally it rewards the ones who knew exactly what they were risking. We are about to find out which one this is.
Let's unpack the thought, see the other side with open eyes, analyze the world around us. This is Chakkalo, where clarity is found. The conversation doesn't end here. Continue the dialogue.